Hi, my name is Frank White and welcome to another episode of Photography Tips and Reviews. Today I am going to review the Sigma 50mm f1.4 art lens. Now, I've heard a lot of great things about this lens, so I decided to pick up a copy of myself so that I can get my take on this lens. And to start this review, I've been comparing it to my EF 50mm f1.4, which is a non-L lens, and so far I'm not seeing a whole lot of difference. So it could be the copy of the Sigma art that I've got or not. I took a series of photos on I put the camera on a tripod and started with the Sigma lens and then removed the Sigma lens and replaced it with the Canon EF lens, and so that I could get a good representation of what each lens looked like. Now, I noticed without any post-processing that the Sigma lens is a tad sharper and it's a lot warmer. But what I'm not seeing is a big difference in clarity and in resolution, basically in sharpness. Basically what I was expecting was to get a really tack sharp image, a noticeably tack sharp image out of my Sigma lens versus the Canon lens based on what I've heard. Now, so with that said, what I'm gonna do in this review is actually use my model to actually make a comparison and see if I can't see the detail. I also, in my previous pictures, I did not check for bokeh, so I do want to compare the bokeh between the two lenses. So here I am. I've got everything set up, starting off with the Sigma lens. Sigma is an insurance company. The Sigma lens, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a picture of, we need to give her a name. For today's shoot, let's call her Sarah. Okay, Sarah, give me a nice smile. And what I want to do is grab a picture of her with the focal point being on her eye. I got this eye here in tack sharp focus. So, and my settings is on ISO 100 with a shutter speed of 320, a shutter speed of 320th of a second, and an aperture f-stop reading of 3.2. And what that's giving me is a perfect exposure. Okay, so I'm gonna make the picture, and that's what it looks like. Now, I'm gonna make this same picture with the Canon EF40. So now I do have the Canon the EF40. I think I said EF40 last time. Actually, what I meant was the EF50 mounted, and I do have an EF40, which I intend to mention in this video a little later on, and you may look forward to a full review of the EF40, but I digress. So now I got the Canon EF50mm f1.4 mounted to the lens, and I'm going to make the same picture that I just made with the Sigma 50. So here we go. And the photo is made. So I didn't change any of the settings. I did adjust the tripod a little bit just to get the focus back on the eye, but we really should see substantially the same picture. Uh, I expect the I do expect to have had to make that adjustment for the focal length because the barrel of the barrel of the lens is a little different. It's different than the barrel of the lens on this one. So while the focal range is the same, there I expect there to be some slight variances. Okay, and now I'm gonna mount the Sigma lens back on the camera, and I'm going to stop it down to f1.4 so we can check out the bokeh that the lens produced, and I'm going to compare it to the bokeh on the Canon. Okay guys, now I've got the Sigma remounted to the camera body. Incidentally, I'm shooting with the Canon EF6D, which is full frame camera. If you want to know the difference between a full frame camera and a crop sensor camera, which is what a lot of you shoot with, then be sure to check out my video on the difference between the two. So I'm gonna move around and make the photo. Again, I've got the focal point right on the eye. That's over here. It's actually on my left, but but to her, from her perspective, it would be her right eye. So the photo is made, and I've just looking at the back of the camera. I've got, and I'm gonna see if I can't show you this. I've got nice, she's lit pretty well, but the background, not only is it blurred out, but it's dark. Now the scene is a little dark, but it looks like it's 2 stops darker than the subject. So I find that kind of interesting. Okay, so let me get the camera set back up for the Canon lens. And just bear with me while I grab the Canon. And I'm gonna make the same photo with the Canon EF50mm f1.4. Okay, I am gonna adjust down a tad so that I can get the focal point on the same eyeball. And I'm actually 2/3 of a stop overexposed. So, but I want to keep everything equal, so I'm going to make the photo. Okay, and you'll get to see the bokeh. And now I'm going to correct the exposure, and I suspect that the reason I was 2/3 of a stop overexposed with the Canon lens is because I don't have as much glass for the light to come through. Okay, now this is the same photo with the exposure adjusted. On the last set of tests, what I want to check is the texture. So I am going to move in just a touch so I can get a better, I want to fill the frame with the subject here. Okay, so at this point I've got the Sigma lens mounted back to the camera, and I've got the aperture bumped up to f5.6. shutter speed is at 100. My ISO is at 100. So let's make the photo. And this is for texture. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to change from the Sigma lens and mount the Canon 50mm. Okay, so let's make this photo. And again, I'm going to do some micro adjustments, even though that first one looked pretty good. This is what's called full-time manual override, when I can make these micro adjustments and not affect the, I can make these micro adjustments in manual, in auto focus mode, and not affect the focus motor. Now, since I do have a copy of the EF40mm, then I'm just gonna go ahead and mount that guy, and just for the heck of it, let's just see what it looks like with the same settings, okay? Okay, so now I got the 40mm lens mounted, and I'm gonna make an image using that lens. And this is not really to compare it, but since I have it, I thought it might be interesting to show you the perspective of a 50mm versus the 40mm. So with that said, let's do it. And the image is made. Our settings are again 100mm, I'm sorry, 40mm lens with a ISO of 100/100th of a second and an aperture of 5.6. The Sigma 50mm 1.4 HMS DG lens features the hypersonic motor for quick and fast focusing. It also has a maximum aperture f16. It weighs in at 28.7 ounces, which is roughly 1.8 pounds. So it's quite a hefty lens. The build quality is really nice. Has a 77mm diameter on the front end. It only has one button, and that's the autofocus manual focus button, which is really tight. Has a wonderful look and a lovely feel. It really feels good. It's a nice looking lens, nicely made. It comes with a flower type lens hood, which when mounted actually extends the lens. The lens hood has markers that match up, so you absolutely know when it's locked in. And it's locked in pretty good, so it isn't gonna come off just by bumping it. Nicely made lens. So before I close this video, I wanted to take you to the Lightroom studio so that we could take a closer look at some images I made specifically um, to be able to make some comparisons between the Sigma Art and the EF Canon 1.4, both of them in the 50mm focal length. Okay, so here's a sand sculpture that was made in the park, and this one was taken with the Sigma, and this one was taken with the Canon. And the Canon lens, to my surprise, is, in my opinion, is just as sharp as the Sigma lens. Now, I do think that the Sigma lens is a little bit warmer than the Canon lens. This is the Canon lens in full frame. Incidentally, I think if you watch this part in with the video maximize the full frame, and if you can manage 1080 DPI, then this section might look a little bit better, even with the compression. But if I go in 1:1 and I look at this little grassy area here on the Canon lens, and if I look at the same area on the Sigma lens, let's get to the same area. Yeah, there's a little grassy part with the pine needles. Looks like there was some grass that was scooped up into the sculpture, and it looked just as sharp on both lenses to me. I'm gonna go back out to full screen and just look at a different image. Now this one is the Canon and this one is the Sigma. And as you can see, the Sigma lens is a stop, maybe a third or maybe 2/3 of a stop darker than the Canon lens, but I attribute that to the extra glass that the light has to travel through. And this is Sigma and this is Canon, but the detail looks about equivalent. Okay, so here's another image. This is the Canon image. This is the Sigma image, and this is the same image. The differences between these two images, these three images, is this image was made at f at 1/8 of a second. This image was made at 1/8 of a second, and this one was made at 1/6 of a second. That's the only differences. So to compare the two that was made at 1/8, let me just go to library mode so we can do an XY comparison. And I think my computer is a little bit behind the curve here. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Just bear with me. Okay, there we go. This is the Canon, and this is the Sigma. We've already established that the Sigma is maybe a third to a third to 2/3 stop darker than the Canon. That's clearly seen here, maybe a third. And let's see, I think this is the Canon, and let's do some zooming in 1:1 on these windows here. If I can get my computer to catch up with me. Okay, so this one is the Canon, and everything looks pretty sharp. I can see the detail in the siding here. And let's look for the detail in the siding on the Sigma. I do see the detail. Now, there is always the possibility that the focus could have been a little different on each one of them, but I don't think so. I use manual focus and the same focal point on both images. This one, incidentally, let me go back out to fit here. Was actually, I did actually do some post-processing on this image because I wanted it to look exactly like the Sigma image, so you can see where I did, well, I guess you can't see, but I did warm it up just a touch. And you can see where I moved the sliders to mimic this image here. I actually did, let's see, let me stop it down to a whole third here. this down was 0.33. Okay, so that's a third. And other than the barrel distortion, these images look just alike. Okay, so these two images here are straight out of the camera with no processing. This is the Sigma and this is the Canon. So you can see that without the processing, the Canon is just not as, just doesn't look as sharp, but with processing, I can get the same image out of the Canon. Let's bump up my clarity a little bit and warm it up some, and warm it up just a little bit more. Just eyeballing this, I think I got it too warm. Don't want to spend a lot of time doing this because I know you guys have other things to do than to sit and watch me process pictures. But I'm trying to get pretty much the same image. Add a little bit of vibrance there, just a touch, and I'd say they're pretty close. And we've already established that as far as the detail go, I've got pretty much the detail in the same level of detail in both images. So as you can see, not a lot of difference in detail. So with that said, let's go back to the main video so that I can get it closed and let you guys go. I hope I've been able to give you some good information about the Sigma 50mm f1.4 art lens. If you like this video, please take a moment to give me a thumbs up. I kind of use it as my barometer to judge how well the content that I'm providing is. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment to do so. That way you won't miss any future episodes when I release them. And if you have any questions or comments about this lens, please leave them in the section below. I'll read each and every comment and may respond, even if the video is a couple of years old. So remember guys, if you're gonna shoot anybody today, shoot them with a Canon or a camera of your choice. And as always, remember, happy shooting.